Trigger warning, grape.
I was graped and schmurdered.
Mass scraping in France.
Pew pew today.
Unaliving.
I am so
Unalived?
pew pew.
About how to
When did we stop saying what we mean? We've created a whole new language out of necessity. Because of platform guidelines on things like TikTok and YouTube, saying certain words, even in an educational or a very serious context, can get your video flagged, demonetized, or even removed. So, people started adapting, replacing words, speaking in code, all to stay visible. And now, that code has become the default. It's in our comments, our captions, our conversations. Even when no one's policing us, we find ourselves talking like they are. Today I'm going to be discussing how algorithmic moderation and our attempts to avoid it have changed the way we discuss serious topics. The internet is changing the way we speak, and it isn't harmless nor random. And regardless, it's something that we need to start paying attention to. To understand why people are changing their vocabularies, we have to go back to where it all started, to the rise of automated moderation. In 2016, YouTube introduced stricter demonetization rules after what was called the adpocalypse, where major companies like Pepsi, Johnson & Johnson, Walmart, and AT&T pulled their ads after investigations by the Times UK revealed that their content was running alongside hate speech, extremist content, and conspiracy videos. The public outcry forced YouTube to act quickly, but rather than manually reviewing content or investing in large-scale human moderation, YouTube implemented a more scalable and less nuanced solution: automated demonetization. And then suddenly, videos were being flagged, not for what they meant, but for what words they used. There was no real way to tell whether a video about violence was encouraging it or preventing it. So, YouTube's system treated both the same by demonetizing them. Many creators have had mental health, sexual assault, or trauma awareness content removed or flagged when they use direct language or provide resources like hotline links. This aligns with TikTok's community guidelines, which allows supportive mental health content but prohibits something like, example, explicit self-harm. The problem is that context-blind moderation often mischaracterizes honest content as violating these policies. Then came TikTok, and it only accelerated this behavior. TikTok's algorithm is one of the most aggressive and opaque. It uses AI-driven moderation to scan audio, on-screen text, captions, hashtags, and comments, often removing videos before a human even sees them. And then platforms like Instagram and Facebook joined in on this wave too by implementing hashtag bans and shadow banning. So what do the people do? They adapt. Suicide becomes unalive, rape becomes grape, and pedophile becomes PDF file. This new coded language emerged as a survival tactic, a way to talk about things without being silenced. And over time, these workarounds became normalized. Today, TikTok users, especially Gen Z, instinctively use euphemisms even in casual conversation. You'll see comments like, "He unalived her," "She got graped," "PDF behavior," or even pew pew. What's wild is how often these euphemisms don't even help. TikTok's algorithm still removes content, but the language still remains, as we've just collectively accepted that this is just how we speak now. It's essentially a new dialect, a algorithmic language. Now I want to shout out at @IamCar on TikTok, who made a brilliant video comparing this whole situation to the language of newspeak, the fictional language from George Orwell's 1984. In Orwell's world, newspeak is designed to limit the range of thought. Words like freedom or rebellion are stripped from the language, because if there's no word for it, maybe you won't think it. And of course, TikTok isn't Big Brother, but the effects are strangely similar. We're being trained to avoid certain words. And when that happens enough times, we stop thinking clearly about the things those words represent. Even the United Nations has acknowledged the problem with AI moderation. Think about that. We're literally changing the way people express trauma, pain, truth, not for safety, but for platform compliance. And you might be asking, what's the actual harm of using euphemisms like this? Isn't it just another form of slang? Or just how Gen Z talks? Well, no. Here's the issue. Euphemisms always come with a cost, especially when the thing that they're softening is trauma. By replacing real words with gentle-sounding code, we create kind of an emotional distance. We dull the severity of the experience. And the more we do that, the easier it is to treat serious topics like casual content. Saying he committed rape feels absurd. It breaks the weight of what's actually being described. It might pass the algorithm, but it doesn't honor the seriousness of the topic. Even worse, it incentivizes creators to package trauma in the most palatable and least truthful way because that's what gets promoted. We end up with content that's vague, algorithm friendly, devoid of context, and finally, emotionally disconnected from the topic. Take, for example, the rise of the true crime community. Many of these videos use euphemisms to avoid bans, while simultaneously aestheticizing or sensationalizing the real trauma. Imagine your trauma being reduced to an emoji on a screen. All that pain and that suffering that you had to go through and that you have to still live with, and people can't even say the word of what happened to you. That's not fair to the victims. But social media platforms are increasingly run by automated moderation systems now. AI that filters content by scanning for flagged terms, but not understanding the context. The issue? Platforms are scaling faster than human moderation can even keep up with, and advertisers are more cautious than ever. The result is a system designed for risk aversion, not justice, education, or nuance. At the same time, there's a cultural pressure to constantly post, constantly share, react, update, upload. And if you're not being pushed by the algorithm, you're gonna get buried in it. I just don't like that in the real world, we can't censor things like rape and murder. People actually go through it. They suffer. They have pain for their entire lives. But somebody is able to take somebody else's trauma and monetize off of it by sugarcoating it with algorithmic words. And yeah, I get it. People say this because they have to. TikTok censors real words, and YouTube demonetizes sensitive topics, and that the system isn't built for nuance, so the creators work around it. That's not new, and I'm not trying to blame anyone for trying to keep their content up. I get it. I just think that it's something worth thinking about. Like, at what point does the workaround become the norm? When do we stop noticing that we're censoring ourselves, even when nobody's forcing us to? Of course, platforms need content moderation, but they also need to recognize context, nuance, intent, which AI isn't good at. We as creators have to make hard choices. Do we avoid certain words to protect our reach, or do we risk suppression to speak honestly? Honestly, I don't know. But what I do know is that language is how we give shape to the truth. And the moment we start editing that truth for algorithms, we risk losing more than just words. Anyways, hi, I'm Isabella, and thank you for listening and joining me today. If you liked today's video, please hit that like button because it really helps me out. And like always, if you had fun this week, you should subscribe because I guarantee you'll have fun next week because I do post weekly every single Monday. Anyways, love ya, great to see ya, and I will see you next week. Bye!